Celeb Savant is a career retrospective type interview focusing on singers, actors, and industry experts. Join Barrett Edelstein now as he dives into the entertainment world.
German singer and songwriter Iggi Kelly joins us for the second time on this episode of Celeb Savant. He is the next generation of the Kelly family and has long since established himself as an artist in his own right. With his modern international pop sound, strong melodies, and authentic stage presence, he continues to reach an ever-growing audience. Songs such as Heard It All, Sleep Alone, and I Follow You have received radio airplay, achieved top positions in the airplay charts, and generated tens of millions of streams, as well as tens of thousands of radio plays. Working with internationally renowned producers, Iggy is constantly shaping his own distinctive and unmistakable sound. His live shows stand for energy, emotion, and a genuine connection with the audience. Together with Universal Music, he is currently working on his debut album. Over the coming months, he will perform live at major festivals before fans get to experience him on his own headline tour, no matter what. Iggy stands for modern pop with international appeal, music that is instantly catchy and leaves a lasting impression, especially live. Up next on Celeb Savant, catching up since we last spoke, is Iggi Kelly. Iggy, it's been 2 years since we last spoke. How are you doing?
First of all, I'm so happy to be back. I'm doing very good. Crazy, 2 years. I can't really imagine that it's been 2 years already. Wow.
So what's been happening in the last couple of years?
I played a lot of shows. I supported Ronan Keating twice on his tours. I supported Lionel Richie on his tour, on his Europe tour, which was insane, really, really cool with my whole band. I played probably around 100 shows. I've released loads of new music, months and months in the studio with my producer teams. So yeah, this is really, really crazy actually what happened the last 2 years, and I'm very grateful for it.
Amazing. So when you're opening up for Ronan Keating and Lionel Richie, when you got the calls to say, okay, this is going to happen, did you have a little bit of imposter syndrome? Were you just excited, or were you just like, okay, I've built up all the foundations, now this is the next step?
Definitely, 100%, because obviously I'm 22 years old. Lionel Richie is 77 or 76. I was like, does that make sense for me to be part of his legacy, kind of? But yeah, I'm very grateful for it all happening. But definitely, it is a crazy thing, because as a 22-year-old, you can't really catch up to that. It feels so far away, and then when it happens, it's just very unusual.
What do you love about performing live?
Obviously, the best part of it is the energy you get between you, your band, and then the whole crowd. I think obviously performing with musicians on a stage is very precious and amazing, obviously, but in combination with a crowd which is grateful, obviously that's absolutely insane. I think even if you stand in the crowd, and I think most of us have been to concerts, you can really feel the energy, and that's something which you can't get through AI, you can't get through your devices, your phone, which is very special.
I think we discussed this before, I can't remember, but I'd like your perception now, having been on more of these shows, especially the ones with Ronan and Lionel. I actually went to a concert recently and I went to go see Ali Campbell, UB40. You mentioned the devices and the phones, but you still have so many people on their phones filming and doing whatever they're doing, which takes, I feel, the person out of their energy, out of the moment. From your perspective, being on a stage, potentially seeing a bunch of phones compared to eyes and faces, is it just where society is at the moment, or do you feel that people need to put them down a bit?
To be honest, it's a very difficult question to answer, because obviously on the one side, you're totally right. It is a bit different. It is not 100% optimal. But on the other side, if someone bought tickets and if someone really wants to look back at them, like I know people who look back at videos of concerts for months and months, yeah, then they should do it. I think it's always a problem when you as an artist or a booker decides no phones allowed. Obviously, one thing I think which does make sense is perhaps to say, please just try to cut down the minutes you film so that there's not an overwhelming crowd of phones in the air. But because some people just non-stop, never stop filming kind of, which is not amazing. But just like some little snippets, I think that's totally okay. And at the end of the day, I think I'm just not a person who would like to just say, stop using your phones, because people paid money to be there. People have a free will. And yeah, obviously it's not optimal, but I don't want to be the person kind of deciding that, because it's such a big question. And I think a lot of people want it. A lot of people maybe don't want it, but it's just a too complex question for me to answer.
You bring the same energy into your live shows, whether it's your own show, performing at a festival, opening for those various artists that you've opened. What is, though, the difference for you in those different scenarios of performance?
The funny thing is actually, it just depends on the crowd. For instance, I played Ronan Keating shows where the crowd was completely full of energy and it felt like the best shows ever. And then on the other side, even if maybe Lionel Richie shows were 3 times bigger or like 15,000 people or something, sometimes when the crowd was a bit quieter, that felt like less energy. It totally depends on the crowd, on the people. I would say that obviously the shows where the crowd is very close to you is always the elite, the best, because it's just fun to see people's faces, to interact with people more closely. In big arenas, you have like big gaps between you and the crowd. So sometimes it's a bit hard to get like a personal connection. But I have to say, obviously, the energy in a big arena is insane, especially when you ask them to get out the lights, or I don't know, to do something like do a OO part or something. You can't really say what exactly is better or not better.
Yeah.
It just depends on the show. But definitely everything is a bit different. Like it depends. It's not like every show is the same, not at all.
When you're performing at festivals or opening for these artists, obviously, or naturally, the audience is not necessarily there for you at a festival. They're there for a bunch of different artists. Also at the opening acts, they are there for the main artists. So do you say, okay, this is a challenge for me now to win over new fans?
Of course, I'm totally aware that the people which look at me at these support shows probably don't even know me, or not yet. I think the first shows are the hardest because you don't really know what you can expect, kind of. But to be honest, the people were so nice with me. So as of the second or third show, I was very confident because obviously I knew how the people reacted the previous shows. But it is hard, obviously. But thankfully, I'm doing pop music, which is not like rap music. I think if you do rap music, especially the rap music, let's say typical for Europe, I think then it's a bit harder because a lot of rap fans are like a bit harder on you. But as a pop musician, I think it's a bit easier, to be honest.
So you referenced a little while ago that you said that after about the third song, your confidence was back up.
And not the third song, the third show.
The third show.
No, because obviously the first shows, you don't really know what you can expect, you know?
Yes.
And then after like the second, third show, I was like a bit more aware of what to expect, kind of, which is cool.
Did that imposter syndrome of you thinking, oh my word, this is happening, did that play a little bit with your thoughts of maybe less confidence or doubts, or it was just about knowing, okay, well, I'm not sure what's going to happen. Now, after 2-3 shows, I know what's going to happen.
Well, it was more the feeling of, well, I'm a 21-year-old at that time, supporting or opening up for a musician who is over 50 years older than me, which is obviously a big age gap also
Yeah.
for the crowd, where I wasn't sure how people would react, to be honest. But actually, it didn't really play a role, and I was pretty surprised about it and pretty happy, obviously. But
Yes.
that was more the thing I was thinking about, to be honest, because I was like, maybe people will hate it when a 22-year-old guy wants to support for like a 76-year-old legacy, kind of. That was
Under,
more the thing I was thinking about, but it actually
understood.
didn't affect it at all. Zero. I was very surprised.
The thing is that I've always said that age is just a number. Age is number that people attach themselves to. And a lot of people, when they get over, you hear people when they're heading to 30 or 40, like, oh, I'm now this age, which means that I can't do this or I can't do that. But music, there's no age in music. Music is just energy. It's a unifying element that brings people together of all ages. So I hear what you're saying,
Totally.
but I get now that it was just about the music.
Definitely. But obviously also our music is different, so
Oh,
that also
yes.
played a role. But yeah, it was a very, very once in a lifetime experience, to be honest. I
Same.
loved it. It was insanely cool. And I also met Lionel Richie, which was also very cool.
And did you meet Ronan as well?
Oh, of course, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Ronan Keating. Actually, my mom had a feature with Ronan Keating, so kind of we've known each other already a bit longer than the support shows.
Iggy, so tell us about the latest music releases and what can you tell us is coming up?
Okay, so I have a new single coming out, which is called Paris. I really love this song. We actually even drove to Paris just to record some promo videos. And then I have a couple summer festivals. I'm in England in the studio with my producer. And then I have a couple Christmas things coming up. I can't really say anything about it yet,
Yes.
unfortunately. And then I have a album lined up for beginning of next year with a headliner tour.
Okay, so I'm very excited you mentioned this because I remember when we spoke last time, 2 years ago, I remember asking you about an album and you said, no, you're just focusing on the singles right now because it's more of a singles market. So I remember I was telling you that there is an upsurge of physical around the world. So since we spoke a couple of years ago, I read this year that in the US last year, $1.04 billion spent on vinyl. And also last year in the UK, there's a basket of products that they gauge exchanges on. There needs to be a high number of exchanges daily for a product to be in the basket. And because of the upsurge of CDs again, CDs are now back in the basket. And the research of all of this is that it's the teenagers and the younger kids diving into this world and loving this world. So
Hmm.
I'm so glad you mentioned about the album. What was the thought to say, okay, I want to now do an album after this period? And what are your thoughts of the landscape at the moment?
Obviously, I'm very happy to see that physical sales are going up because obviously it's very different to streaming. Streaming has nothing really personal to it, so I think it's really nice and really exciting to hear that. And obviously, what people shouldn't forget is an album is not just a choice. An album is a high cost product also for the production. So let's say if I bring out an album, it's not just couple thousand euros or a couple $1,000 which go into it. Is way more than that because there's people involved in it. This money doesn't go to me. This money only goes to kind of the production costs. So nowadays doing an album is a privilege for a lot of people, and I'm very thankful to do it just because obviously the costs are not low. And back then you could get back that money quickly with physical sales. Nowadays, yeah, you need like hundreds of millions of streams or maybe
Yes.
millions and millions of streams to get that money back, kind of.
This album you're releasing, is it going to have all the singles that you've previously released or not necessarily? Or you still deciding?
Okay, so it's not 100% clear yet. It will have most of my singles and obviously my most popular songs on it, definitely, yeah. I'm very excited for it. Like, to be honest, I've been in the studio weeks and weeks and we've just tried out loads of different stuff. Yeah, it's just very exciting to have this, yeah, to be free kind of and to
Mm.
just write out of your heart. It's very, very special, yeah.
And for any of the newer collaborations or singles or things you've been doing, have you been collaborating with any people you have as yet collaborated with before? Or is it all the same people that you have previously worked with?
Actually, it's all the same people. That's the funny thing. Yeah, same label, same producer, same promoter. Yeah.
Okay, so now you referenced something a little while ago about the millions of streams. So I teach spinning classes, and I decided to do
Mm-hmm.
focus groups. I did a focus group of 10 people, 8 people, 3 people, cross age, cross
Mm-hmm.
culture, cross diverse. They mainly listen to music on Spotify or streaming. I said to these
Mm-hmm.
groups of people, if an artist has had 100 million streams, how much money do they think that you as an artist has got in your back pocket? Now, the first group
Yeah.
of people said $50 million. The second group of people said $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
And the third group of people said 300,000 to 2 million. And I said, well, actually, no, it's more like a couple of thousand. I know that Lily Allen, Kate Nash, Snoop Dogg, Ray, a whole bunch of artists have been speaking about this, this imbalance. I have spoken to a lot of
Mm-hmm.
artists, as you know, and a lot of them have said that Spotify is their business card. They can see they're blowing up in France, they're blowing up in South Africa, they're blowing up in Germany, so they know they can go and tour there. Do you think that the listening audience should have more of an understanding of this imbalance? I have spoken to a lot of artists who said maybe yes, because then if the audience does understand it, then they'll maybe buy more t-shirts, buy more merch, buy CDs and stuff that will allow you guys to get a little bit more financial profit from the campaigns you're doing. What are your thoughts around this concept?
Okay, so definitely, I think it's always good. The more you're aware about everything in life, the better. And also in that subject, I think it's very important for people obviously to understand that, yeah, money does play a role because the people who you work with, they need to get paid. And it's not just about you as an artist trying to earn money to pay your rent, but it's also just the costs you have, which, and that's the problem. For instance, if you make a couple million streams on Spotify, well, that won't really pay for the production of the single. And that's something which people forget. And I think also when we look at how many labels drop newcomers, that's partly also because it's just hard nowadays to make money with music, and that money is needed to pay the costs. So yes, I think it's important to be more aware about everything, about Spotify, about how everything works, because then people maybe would have a more realistic view on what an artist really turns over, kind of. Yeah, definitely. Also, especially with really like newcomers which are at the start, like obviously some people are lucky and have a producer who does it for free because they're friends or whatever, but normally you have to pay a producer. And the thing is, people are like, yeah, why are you only releasing 1 or 2 songs a year? Well, because some musicians or some singers just can't afford more songs because it's expensive. And I know myself newcomers who really invested tens of thousands of euros into their project, and not into promotion ads or something, just into the product itself. And yeah, so I think that's something I think a lot of people are not aware of, that it's all a bit of a thing where you invest loads of money and just hope that it comes back, kind of.
Yeah, a lot of people see it as this glamorous life. You guys on stage touring, you're making loads of money. But these days, it's not necessarily that. I mean, I read an article that Lily Allen, she's got 8 million monthly followers on Spotify. She's making more money selling pictures of her feet on OnlyFans than she is
Wow.
making from her money on Spotify, which is just in my
Wow.
mind is absolutely crazy.
Definitely, it's completely insane. Yeah, insane. Obviously, also what people shouldn't forget is like, if artists are in labels, let's say you make 10 million streams on Spotify, which looks pretty cool. 10 million streams is pretty decent, amazing. That's maybe on master rights, I don't know, let's say between 40 and 50,000 euros. But the problem is that the money a label invested in the artist first needs to be recouped before
Yes.
you see that money. So if a label invested tens of thousands of euros for the singles before that, which didn't perform well, you'll see like nothing because that money first needs to go back to the label. The income you get is just kind of paying back the credit kind of you kind of got from your label. So I think that's also a big thing. Also, these big artists with millions of monthly listeners, obviously they have their ways to make money, but on the streaming side, they will have high costs, stylists, music
Yes.
videos, everything, and all that money needs to get recouped before they earn anything on their streams.
Exactly.
So yeah.
What has been the inspiration behind your latest music?
Well, obviously, a lot of things happened. Yeah, just life situations. I had a breakup a year ago or something, which obviously is very inspirational for new music, I have to
Yes.
say. So this helped on the artistic side, let's say. And yeah, just anything in life. To be honest, I think that writing songs is like therapy, and when you have something which kind of is in your mind a lot, then you can just try to put it into a song, and then yeah, you feel like free.
Sorry about your breakup, but we hear it from a lot of artists that breakups inspire a lot of creativity because of the
Definitely.
emotions that you go through. But now, you mentioned therapy and writing your music's your therapy. Now, a lot of people are not performers, as we know, and there's this whole societal thing in the world that says, don't feel your emotions, don't cry because you're weak, don't show your anger because that's not okay. So for you, you let it out through your writing of music. What advice would you give to someone who's not in the industry, is struggling to feel their emotions and how to tap into that?
Well, first of all, I think that a lot of people don't want to let emotions out, especially I would say if I look around my surroundings, especially men, me
Yes.
included. To be honest, I think it's just also a self-coping mechanism where you kind of try to like, because the more you think about things which affect you, the more it hurts, kind of. So some people just try to ignore it, just try to push it somewhere back. And what I would say is, it is really hard to kind of open up also to yourself. But once you do it, it really helps you. And obviously, people can say that, but I can tell you it does help. And if it's very important, if you have something which affects you in life, to cry, to let it out, to talk to people you love, you trust. I think that's very important.
We played this game last time and we're playing it again. Once we finish this conversation, if you had to go away and listen to 5 other artists, not your favorite, just top of mind, who would those 5 artists be?
Okay, I would definitely say Billy Ricky, which is a newcomer, but he has an amazing, insane voice. Yeah, Billy Ricky is definitely on the top there. Then I'd definitely say, even if I haven't heard him for a long time, James Arthur, just such a legacy from back then. Yeah, and then I'd say, well, then I would say some old songs from Shawn Mendes. So that's number 3. Oh, I know who. Stromae, which is like a French or Belgium singer. He sings in French. And then the last one, you know what? I'd say Gims, which is a French singer. Yeah.
Okay, so those 2 French Belgium singers. So Gims is that Gims.
Yeah.
And the other French Belgium one you mentioned, how do you spell their name?
Stromae is Stromae, I think.
Just so that the listeners can go and do a Google deep dive.
Of course, of course. I have to say Stromae, oh my God, amazing music. I speak French fluently, so it's so much easier for me to kind of catch on to that music because I understand what he's singing about. But even if not, I think it's such a great artist.
I often hear people say, oh, they love this song, they love this song. And I say to them, do you know what the song is actually about? You know, there's a couple of songs that come to mind. You know, that song, Pumped Up Kids, that was about a shooting in America. There's a song by Sia Chandelier, and she was an alcoholic. And that whole song is about her staying sober. But she says, 1, 2, 3, drink, 1, 2, 3, drink. Then there's that other song from the 90s, that Gypsy Woman by Crystal Waters, that la-da-dee, la-da-da, that song is all about a homeless person. She's a homeless person trying to make money. And I say to these people, when you listen to songs, do you hear, or are you hearing what they're saying? And they say, no, they don't really know. And I explain to them, and they're like surprised, like, oh, I didn't know that song was about that. So when it comes to your songs, obviously you've got the lyrics and intentions behind them. Are you very intentional and want the audience or listeners to get the meaning straight away, or you are comfortable to let them process it at their own time?
I think that it depends on the person. Some people really need lyrics to connect to, and
Yes.
some people just want to have a good time. So I think obviously one and the other don't works also together. But I have to say that I think it's not that relevant. If someone listens to my music and really catches on to my lyrics, that's amazing, and I'm obviously super grateful and happy for that. But if someone just wants to have a good time and just puts it on in the car, that's also totally fine for me. I think I'm not a fan of boxes, kind of. I think you should let everything open, and I think that kind of, because there's so many artists, the people who really need lyrics to catch on to, they will end up with the artists who are more lyrics focused and where that's more important. And then the listeners who rather want to just have a good time and don't want to listen to the lyrics, they then probably will rather end up somewhere. And then there's people in between who probably listen to music like mine, which is something in between, where the lyrics are important, but also the vibe of the song is very important too. So I think it's very individual, and I love that. I love that it's individual. I love that no one tells you what to do, and that everyone has a free will and doesn't even think about that, to be honest. I think that's beautiful.
When you're listening to songs by other artists, are you able to relax and just listen to it for what it is? Or is your creative, technical brain unpacking what they've created?
Unfortunately, yes, it's actually a big problem. I actually don't listen to much music in my private life. And if then in another language or another genre, because exactly what you said is really an issue, I always try to understand what have they done, what did the producer do, what type of snare did they use, just every stupid thing. And that's obviously not relaxing for your brain.
I suppose it can become a bit annoying.
Yeah, definitely. I remember listening to music without thinking about all these things. It's crazy, yeah.
I suppose, yeah, but when you go into a creative space and then you start creating that world, when you look at others in the same sort of sector, whether you're creating movies, whether you're an actor, whether you're an accountant, whatever you're doing, whether you're an interviewer. Since I started doing interviews and I watch interviews sometimes, I'm like, how can they ask that person that question? I actually want the floor to open up so I can hide, because that question was just so intrusive, so not okay. So I get what you're saying here.
Yeah, that definitely, yeah. You look onto it with a different view, yeah.
The podcast, as we know, is listened to throughout the world. As a final message to the audience, what would you like to say?
Well, first of all, thank you so much to you. Thank you so much to you guys for listening. Stay true to yourself. Obviously, it's a very cheesy thing to say, but I think it's very important, because money is not everything, and do something in life, if it's your job or in your private life, which fulfills you. And if you didn't find it yet, then continue searching for it, because I know that that's actually the main thing in life. It's crazy. I look around me, and that's one thing I know for sure for myself. That's so important. But yeah, thank you so much, and have a wonderful evening, morning, or day, everyone.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Celeb Savant. Please follow Barrett on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook at Celeb Savant. That's CelebSavant.